Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Scottish Crypto Show. Today's episode is all about inflation and the impact it's having on society. If you're interested in anything more from us, please like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube, and please follow us on Twitter at Scotsman Crypto. If you're interested in getting involved in crypto and Bitcoin, there is a code in the description for a free £10 Bitcoin when you sign up to the Luno wallet. Okay, let's get started. Inflation is crippling the poor and the most vulnerable in society. CPI inflation is over 5% and trending upwards. It's the worst in decades, but that only tells half the story. With the government now recognising that their reckless monetary policy over the last 2 years has caused the worst inflation in decades, they are now about to raise interest rates and also cripple the middle classes, as well as drive the poor even poorer. But first, we need to understand what inflation is and what's causing the inflation. So inflation is a measure of a price of a selection of goods over time: food, energy, fuel, cars, rent, etc. But what you typically find is these things become a bigger proportion of your income the less you earn. The government's policy of printing more money has caused prices to rise dramatically as demand surged, labour pressures from COVID and Brexit grew, and supplies dried up or got stuck in ports. People had more free cash due to furlough at the same time production on almost everything slowed, causing rise in demand, reduced supply, which equals rise in prices. On top of that, the government's own standard for measuring CPI inflation is completely baffling. There's things in the basket of goods that don't affect anyone. For example, the cost of a smart speaker. Well, that's a once in a few year purchase, so why are we measuring that every year and measuring the inflation price? Not to mention that the price of a smart speaker, or I saw that weights were in it, the price of a smartwatch like an Apple Watch was also in the basket of goods. These things maybe go up £5-10, but because they're quite a high ticket item, that is 1% of the actual overall value, so that drives the number down. When we actually look at core goods that people require to survive, like food, energy, and fuel prices, they're all up 10-20%. Some food prices, including pasta and rice, which you would say were main sustenance of diet, they're up over 100% year over year. This is putting so much pressure on the poorest in society. Those living paycheck to paycheck or perhaps are on their pension are finding that their money doesn't go as far as it used to, and it's squeezing them to the point where they have to dramatically cut back or make some decisions. Are they going to put the heating on? Are they going to just, not have dinner? Are they going to go to bed hungry? These are all decisions no one should have to make, especially in a country that we quite rightly regard ourselves as one of the richest countries in the world. We've got record numbers using food banks, record numbers of homelessness, and it's all caused by monetary policy from the UK government. And it's not even a Conservative thing. This has been going on for the last decade, since the massive financial crisis in 2008. As always, during the pandemic, the rich got richer while the poor got disillusioned, lost trust in their politicians, and realised the system's rigged against them. The rich used 0% interest to acquire more assets, like property, buy more stocks in big pharmaceutical companies, and invest in businesses that would protect them against inflation when it came. If you have appreciating assets that appreciate faster than inflation, your wealth's protected, and despite inflation growing year over year, they're still managing to increase their wealth. What we typically find is the middle classes and the poor have very little assets or stocks investments because we don't educate people that this is important in life. No one learns this at school. The middle class might own their own homes, they might own their own car, but actually the appreciation and wealth in your home is irrelevant, because in order to see some of that capital that you've invested, you have to sell it and replace it with another house, which, because assets are appreciating so fast, the next house is going to be way more expensive, so you actually can't ever benefit from that appreciation and value. The UK government has now worked out that to reduce inflation, they have to curb demand by increasing interest rates. The easiest way to slow demand is slow how fast people can get access to cheap cash. The policy will hurt those with debt that, combined with inflation, puts pressure on their disposable income. Those with credit cards, mortgages, car payments will all be hit the hardest, while once again the rich will benefit by increasing rents, moving stocks to financial institutions, and benefiting from the inflated prices in goods, which typically they own stocks in these companies that sell those goods. Well, this outlook, this podcast is pretty bleak for the poor middle classes. There is alternatives. Start investing, start learning about the economy, and start learning ways to beat the system. Get a second job, use that money to invest in property, in stocks, in Bitcoin, in crypto, whatever you can do that's going to beat inflation. The worst issue for me isn't the fact that inflation is pushing the poor poorer, that middle classes are getting squeezed, and actually people are struggling to feed their kids. The worst issue is that media aren't even paying attention, and in my opinion, we're sleepwalking into a massive crisis. The poorest in society are going to be hurt the most. The media's not reporting on it. And in this podcast, I've showed Jack Monroe. She's just one person that's campaigning for this, but actually she's getting fobbed off, and the media headlines aren't relevant. The biggest issue is yet to come. What happens in society when the people realise that their money's worthless, their efforts, their labour is worthless? What happens then? They can work as many hours as they want, but if they can't get ahead and they're always getting poorer, what happens? They become disillusioned, there's unrest, and then there's social aggression. All the while, the media doesn't even pay notice to it. They're more interested in what's going on with Prince Andrew or Djokovic, rather than what's staring them in the face. And while we can talk about Boris Johnson's parties, what we're not discussing is that monetary policy in this country is crippling the poorest in society. Obviously, I'm biased, you can tell by the name of the show, but I genuinely believe Bitcoin's an escape from this system. It's decentralised, it has no control over it, and it appreciates at over 100% year over year for the last 10 years, so way outstrips inflation. And you can buy into Bitcoin with as little as £5. So in my opinion, the best plan would be dollar cost average into crypto, or Bitcoin in particular, and put away, £5 a week, £50 a month, and over time that will help you build wealth. It's going to be slow, it's not going to happen overnight, but I believe Bitcoin is the future, and it gets you out of this rigged system that we all belong to. Well, that is my rant of the day. Thanks very much for listening. Please subscribe and listen to our YouTube videos that we've already got up. Hit the like button, drop comments, and follow us on Twitter at ScotsmanCrypto. Big shout out to Jack Monroe on Twitter. Our handle's on the screen now. Please follow her and help her push this campaign to help spread the word of inflation, and hopefully we can make some change.